It was just past midnight when the phone rang. At first, I didn't even notice it. The screen lit up once, then again, and finally a third time. My heart knew who it was before my eyes even registered the name. I stared at the screen for a moment too long, not answering. Just breathing. Wondering. Trembling. I hadn't heard from him in so long. Not since the last night, the one we both pretended never happened. Not since the hotel, not since the silence, not since everything between us shattered without a single goodbye. But there he was. Calling me. At midnight. And something inside me whispered, "Don't pick up, unless you're ready to hear everything you tried so hard to forget." I answered. The line was quiet for a moment. I heard him breathing. Heavy. Hesitant. He didn't say hi. He didn't ask how I was. He simply said, "I shouldn't be calling you." My hands trembled. I walked slowly to the window, heart pounding, eyes wide open as the streetlights blurred through my tears. I wanted to ask why he called. I wanted to scream, "Then why are you calling?" But all I said was, "Then don't." There was silence again. But this time it was a silence full of everything we had never dared to say. And then, his voice cracked. "I saw your picture today. The one from the interview. You looked like someone else." I blinked, confused. What did that even mean? I looked like someone else? Was that his way of saying he missed the girl I used to be, the one who used to laugh at his terrible jokes and fall asleep next to him after long shoots? I kept telling myself you were happy, he whispered, but when I saw that photo, I realized maybe you're just surviving. He wasn't wrong. I hadn't felt alive in months. After everything ended, I buried myself in work. Smiles for cameras, nods in interviews, fake laughter on talk shows. But inside, it was like standing in an empty hallway, waiting for a door to open that never would. "I wasn't going to call," he said suddenly. "I had written your number down so many times. Deleted it. Rewrote it. I thought if I heard your voice again, I wouldn't be able to let go." I stood there frozen, the phone pressed to my ear, heart shattering into pieces one breath at a time. "And now?" I asked. He took a long, quiet breath. "Now I know I can't." I closed my eyes. The weight of those words crushed me. Because deep down, I already knew. We were never going to be just friends. Never going to be strangers. Never going to be anything but a memory that still bled every time we touched it. "Why now?" I whispered. "Because I saw someone else with you, and I thought I was okay. I thought I was over it. But I lied to myself. 4 months. Maybe even years." He was talking about the gala. The photos. The ones that made headlines. But what he didn't know was, I wasn't with that person. I was just next to him. And my heart? It was still with him. Always had been. But I didn't say that. I couldn't. "You once told me," he said, "that no matter what happened, you'd always pick up if I called at midnight." I remembered that. It was the night after our first big fight. We were in the middle of nowhere filming. He had walked off set. I waited hours. He came back around midnight. Eyes red. Voice soft. That night, I told him, "I don't care what happens between us. If you ever call me at midnight, I'll answer. Always." And here we were. "I'm sorry I never came to see you," he added. "I was a coward. I watched your life from a distance. Pretended I didn't care. But I did. I still do." My voice was trembling when I finally asked, "So why now? What do you want from me?" His voice lowered. "I want to stop pretending that losing you didn't break me." My knees almost gave out. I slid to the floor, phone still in hand, tears finally falling freely. Because he wasn't just breaking his silence. He was breaking mine too. I wanted to ask so many things. Why didn't you fight for me? Why didn't you say this then? Why now, when it's too late? But instead, I whispered, you broke my heart that night. The one we never talk about. The one we buried like it never happened. He didn't deny it. I know, he said, quietly. And I break it again every day by not calling you sooner. The pain in his voice was real. Raw. And so familiar. Because it matched mine. We stayed silent for a while. Just listening to each other breathe. Just remembering. And then he said something that caught me completely off guard. Do you remember the letter you wrote me? My heart stopped. I had written it months after everything ended. A letter I never sent. One where I poured out everything I never had the courage to say. You never read it, I said, voice barely audible. I did, he replied. Your manager gave it to me, weeks later. I kept it in my drawer. Read it every night for a year. I couldn't believe it. That letter was supposed to be my goodbye. My final whisper into a love that never got closure. Then why didn't you say anything? I asked. Because I didn't know how to love you without ruining everything else around me. That line broke me. Because I knew exactly what he meant. The silence between us stretched longer than it should have. And yet, I didn't hang up. Neither did he. Because even in the silence, something was being said. Something we both had run from for too long. You know what hurts the most, he finally said. It's not that we ended. It's how we ended. I swallowed the lump in my throat. You didn't fight for me, I whispered. Not once. He didn't interrupt. He didn't deny it. I know. You let me walk away, I continued, my voice shaking. You watched me cry. You saw the pain in my eyes and still said nothing. My chest tightened. The tears I had held back all night started to sting. I didn't care anymore. He needed to hear it. I needed to say it. I waited for you to chase me, I said. To show up. To stop me. But you never did. There was a long pause on his end. Then, quietly, because I thought if I let you go, it would hurt less than holding on to something I kept destroying. That line pierced through me. He didn't say he didn't love me. He said he was afraid of the damage he kept causing by loving me. You always had this idea of protecting me, I said. But all you ever did was disappear when I needed you most. Another memory flashed in my mind, one that still haunted me. It was the day the rumors hit the press. Lies about me. Ugly ones. And while the world was throwing stones, I looked for him. I looked for his hand, his voice, his protection. And he was silent. Days passed. Then weeks. When I finally confronted him, he said, I didn't want to make it worse. But he didn't realize that his silence was louder than the noise. That his absence was more brutal than anything the tabloids could say. Do you think I didn't suffer too? He asked now, breaking my thoughts. Did you? I asked, almost bitterly. Because you moved on. You traveled, you smiled for cameras. You dated. You looked fine. That was survival, he said. Not happiness. Then why didn't you call? I snapped. Why now? Why tonight? His answer came slow. Careful. Because I saw your name come up today, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. My name? In a script. I froze. What script? They offered me a project. And when I read the character, I saw you. Me? Not literally. But the way she laughed. The way she kept people at a distance. The way she never said how much she hurt. It was like reading pages you had written with your silence. And that's when I felt it. That crack. The one that starts deep in your chest, then spreads outward like a spiderweb across your soul. Because I had spent so long pretending I didn't miss him, pretending I had healed, but the truth was, I had just gotten good at hiding the scar. There's always that one night you never talk about. The one that lives behind your eyes, in the silence between conversations. The one that changes everything, without a single word being said. For us, that night happened in Rome. We were there for an event. Publicly, we smiled. Cameras followed us everywhere. But behind closed doors, everything had started to unravel. I had found a message on his phone. It wasn't what he said. It was what he didn't say back. And worse, it wasn't even from someone I knew. Some model. A flirtatious exchange. Casual, probably meaningless to him. But to me, it was the moment I realized he had already started to drift away. When I confronted him, he looked at me like I was overreacting. Like I was insecure. But deep down, we both knew it wasn't about the message. It was about the fact that he let it happen. You didn't even say sorry, I said now, my voice breaking. You just stood there. Because I didn't know how to explain what I couldn't even understand myself, he replied. You could have just said, I don't want to lose you. That's all I needed. But I thought I already had, he said. And I didn't want to beg for something I wasn't sure I deserved. I remembered that night so clearly. I had left the hotel room, walked for hours. No jacket. Just my phone in my hand, hoping, praying, he would call. He didn't. Instead, I waited outside his door. I sat on the floor. Cold. Shivering. For almost 2 hours. And still, nothing. Not a knock. Not a message. Not a single sign that he even noticed I was gone. That was when something inside me snapped. Not with anger. Not even with sadness. But with acceptance. I realized that I had been loving him more than he knew how to love himself. I waited, I said now. Do you even know that? I waited outside your room. Silence. Then, you did? Yes. Why didn't you knock? Because I wanted you to open the door. There was a pause. And then, I heard his breath catch. I was inside, he said. Listening to every sound in the hallway. I thought I heard something, but I was too afraid to check. I thought if it was you, and you had come to leave me. I couldn't bear to see it. My lips parted. The tears came again, this time without resistance. So we had both been there. On opposite sides of the door. Both waiting. Both hoping. Both hurting. But neither of us had the courage to turn the handle. The clock on my wall read 1:12 a.m. And still, neither of us hung up. We sat there, two souls separated by distance and regret, connected only by a fragile phone line and 100 unsaid things. If I had opened that door, he said softly, do you think everything would have been different? Yes, I answered, without hesitation. Because I was ready to forgive you. There was a deep exhale on his end. Almost like a silent cry. I imagined him sitting alone in a dark room, eyes closed, hand gripping the phone like it was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. Why didn't we try again, he asked. Why didn't we even try? Because love wasn't the problem, I said. Pride was. He didn't speak. And that silence? It was louder than any scream. I never stopped caring, I added. I just got tired of caring alone. And I never stopped loving you, he whispered. I just didn't know how to show it without ruining everything. We both fell quiet again. But this time, it wasn't just pain. It was something heavier. Final. Like a chapter closing on its own. Can I ask you something? He said. Yes. If I had called you before, months ago, would you have picked up? I didn't lie. Yes. Every single time. He broke. I could hear it in his breath. The way it hitched. The way he inhaled sharply, trying not to cry. Then why didn't I? He muttered. What the hell was I waiting for? For me to move on, I said. So it would hurt less. But it never hurt less. Not really. We stayed quiet for another moment. And then, gently. Do you remember the last thing I ever said to you? Yes, he replied. You said, if you ever call me at midnight. That way I'll know it's real. And now? Now I know it's real, he said. But too late. Tears streamed down my face. Not because of what he said, but because I had waited so long to hear it. And when it finally came, I had nothing left to give. So what now? I asked, barely breathing. He didn't answer right away. Then, with a voice that trembled, now I hang up. And let you go, the way I should have never done. My heart shattered. But you just said, I know, he interrupted. And that's what makes this so hard. I wanted to stop him. I wanted to scream, stay. Don't end this here. But I didn't. Because I knew. Some love stories don't need a sequel. Some endings are not about closure, but about truth. And this? This midnight call? It was the truth we never dared to say out loud. One last thing, he said. Yes? I loved you then. I love you now. And I probably always will. The line went silent. Then, click. He was gone. And I sat there, phone still in hand, staring at the empty screen, heart bleeding from a wound I thought had long scarred over. He had finally called. He had finally said it. At midnight. And what he said broke my heart.